Well, I'm sure most of you know by now that Norwegian Cruise Lines, they're going to be sending their non-essential crew members back home. And there's been a collective, oh no, everything's coming to an end reaction from all corners of everything. And you know me, I'm a little bit of a contrarian. That could be the case. The sky could be falling or not. Let's talk about it. Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the Cruise News Show. I'm your host Tony, here with the latest cruise news updates. Well, worst cruise news ever, worst cruise news for right now. The story broke a couple days ago. I first saw it over on the Ship Life. Jay at the Ship Life had obtained a recording of a captain of a cruise ship announcing to his crew that they basically wouldn't have any work anymore, that they were being sent home. And it's gut-wrenching. It is gut-wrenching. You should go listen to that audio because you can hear the challenge and the pain in the voice of that captain as he delivers what is probably the worst news that crew members right now wanted to hear. And then shortly after that, a couple of the big cruise blogs, Cruise Industry News, Cruise Hive, both had articles pointing to another source where an official document was obtained where there was a letter sent to crew members telling them that they would be repatriating non-essential crew back home. The Cruise Industry News article said that thousands of crew members had been brought back onto NCL ships, and now, because of this process, they would be repatriated. A couple cruise ships were mentioned for this repatriation process, the Norwegian Encore, the Norwegian Joy, and so it left us all some room to comment. I wanted to wait another day to see if any other news came out, but so far, the general feeling is like, this is bad, and it is bad. It does mean that these crew members that went on two cruise ships to begin making a living again are now going to be in a situation where they are out of employment. It is bad that these cruise ships that we thought were going to be the beginnings of the test sailings, at least these ships with this crew, not going to be the beginning of the test sailings. But does it mean the worst case scenario? Does it mean that cruising will be delayed for many more months? And as I've researched this, as I've thought about it, as I have contemplated it, one big thing came to mind, which I want to share with you. First, before we get there, let's talk about the things we do not know. We do not know exactly how many crew members were brought onto cruise ships. Again, the only reference I saw was in the Cruise Industry News article that said thousands. We do not know how many cruise ships were activated. Did Norwegian put a full crew on every cruise ship in their fleet, or was it something less? If you look at the CDC website for ships that are trying to get into the test sailing process, there's only 3 Norwegian cruise ships. The Pride of America, which is an American flagged cruise ship with an American crew that primarily cruises around Hawaii, that's on the list. The Norwegian Gem is on that list, and the Norwegian Jewel. What's interesting is those 3 ships are not going to be used for the repatriation process, so suggesting that they'll stay where they're at. Is that significant? Remember, the couple ships mentioned for the repatriation is the Norwegian Encore and the Norwegian Joy. The Norwegian Encore is in Southampton, UK today, and the Norwegian Joy is in the Southern Caribbean, around Aruba. So yeah, the 3 ships that are involved in US sailings are not involved in taking the crew members back to their home. And let's look at the timeline on this. Norwegian has said it will take until at least late March or early April to get these crew members home. Let's remind ourselves of a number that's important. How long does it take to get ships ready to cruise? The CEO of Norwegian Cruise Line Holding Group, Frank Del Rio, asked this question, and in early October of 2020, he said it takes about 60 days. They're scheduled to cruise again in May. May is only 92 days away, so now we've got to go through a process where they send the crew home and then they bring them back. In the plainest terms, Norwegian is scheduled to cruise in 92 days, but it seems like they got 120 days worth of crew work to do, at least with this crew. Does the simple math signal that there will be no Norwegian Cruise Line cruises in May June, July, who knows? Is that what we're looking at? The timing just isn't adding up here. And so it begs the question, is it even about the timing? Yeah, I don't think so. Hey, let me take a quick moment. Thank you for watching the show so far. If you're enjoying it, please consider subscribing to the YouTube channel. Be a part of that virtual community. Subscribe with the notification bell on. That way you don't miss out on any of these updates. But yeah, I don't really think it's about the timing. Then why are they sending these crew members home? I got questions. Do the same crew members that are going home over the next 60 days, do they have to be the same crew members that return to cruise ships when cruising resumes? In the announcement, Norwegian said that these crew members would be prioritized to go sailing again, but it didn't specifically exclude other crew members going to cruise ships first. It didn't say anything like these crew members will return to the exact cruise ship they came off of. It didn't say that they would be first. So that's interesting. And here's another thing to think about. What is going to be a key difference about these crew members that are returning home different than new crew members that may be going to cruise ships to cruise soon, to cruise first? The crew members that are being sent home right now off of Norwegian Cruise Line cruise ships are not vaccinated. And you know which of the major 3 cruise lines have come out and said they absolutely want their crew vaccinated before cruising resumes? Norwegian Cruise Line. We covered it just the other day based on the reporting of Fox 35 over in Orlando. They specifically reached out to Norwegian and said, what's your stance on vaccination? Let me remind you of the quote. A spokesperson for Norwegian Cruise Line Holdings said, we are exploring all options regarding vaccination for guests and crew, and it is our intention that all crew members be vaccinated before boarding our vessels to begin their duties, subject to the availability of the vaccine. Well, the people that they're sending home, they're definitely not vaccinated. And so one thing that could be happening here, again, the sky could be falling. This could be horrible news for cruising, or it could be something entirely different. It could be the manifestation of that Norwegian intention to make sure that their crew members are vaccinated. They might be looking for a batch of vaccinated crew members, and where the crew members are going to get vaccinated is in their home country. Think about it. When they brought these crew members on board 60, 90 days ago, their intention was to sail using the health protocols. They weren't talking about sailing with a vaccine. And then as December 2020 rolls around, the vaccines come on the scene, and that starts to change everything up. Again, it changes the conversation we've had about cruising. Cruise lines are saying we can last longer now on the money that we have, and they're really starting to look at vaccines as the road forward. That's my opinion based on a lot of these statements that we've heard from the cruise lines. Will other cruise lines follow suit? Well, so far, Royal Caribbean, Carnival, they haven't made this commitment to crew vaccination. And honestly, they might, or they may try to go forward and sail under the current health protocols laid out in the framework for conditional sailing. But this move by Norwegian Cruise Line to send their non-essential crew members back home, very consistent on what they've been saying publicly about their desire for crew vaccination. And my hunch is that they will be looking for crew members that have been vaccinated. Is there enough time to get cruising restarted by May, by June, the next 60 days? Look, Del Rio said 60 days to get a crew on a cruise ship. There's 90 days until May. So that means there's 120 days until June. So it's very feasible that they could start seeking out crew members that have gotten vaccinated, or even trying to facilitate vaccinations in countries where crew members come from. Obviously, there's a lot to be done before sailing can begin, but I'm not hanging my hat on the idea that this move by Norwegian somehow signals the end of cruising in 2021. Certainly not signaling the end of cruising forever, as some have suggested. To me, I think they just want to be a cruise line that cruises with vaccinated crew as a foundation, and they got to send the non-vaccinated people home first and almost like reset it. This announcement could signal the worst things ever, or it could fit somewhere in a business strategy that these large corporations are trying to use to get back to business. It's a battle of the philosophies here. You see in the comments, every time something happens that's negative, that's the end of cruising. Cruising will never return. Cruise companies are going bankrupt. And then you could fault me on the opposite. Every time something doesn't happen, I say, well, cruising will continue. The cruising is scheduled for May. It's just a matter of the way we look at life going forward. The reality is we don't really know what tomorrow holds. And so we can approach it with everything's going to be a mud pie type deal and call it realism, or we can approach it with it ain't a mud pie until it rains philosophy, and you can call it Pollyannic. Either way, the conversation is what I appreciate. Question for the comments: Is this the end of cruising, or could it be about vaccines? Let's have that conversation. Thank you so much for checking out the show today. Please show your support by hitting the like button. This is Tony with Lido Loca, and until the next time, we'll see you on the Lido.